To order, please rise. I love that. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the school board will convene to executive session tonight to consider employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility under Wisconsin statutes 19.85, paren 1, paren C. Did we have any guests sign up to comment?
We do.
Are they coming as guests?
They're coming right now because they have parent-teacher conferences and they want to return back to
Okay.
parent-teacher conferences.
So, Deborah Van Toyn and Ryan Hilbert.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Good evening.
Welcome guests.
Yes, we are guests.
Late for dinner.
They've been here all day. They're guests.
Well, it sounds like most of you know us. I'm Ryan Hilbert, middle and high school social studies teacher, president of the SEA, and Deb Dantwine, sixth grade teacher and vice president of the SEA. We just want to touch briefly. We met with Mr. Lickey last Friday, and one of the topics that we talked about was meet and confer, and the possibility of maybe getting that kind of back up and running a little bit as it's kind of fallen off on the wayside a little bit. And we think it'll just be kind of a great way for teachers and staff members and administrators to kind of touch base on issues and just share ideas and opinions about some of the concerns that we might have or you guys might have and maybe find solutions to that. And we just wanted to clarify that meet and confer, it's not anything related to collective bargaining as Act 10 had years back. It's just a way for us to touch base on issues and find a way to solve problems. So.
I think back in the day, I've been here 29 years now, back in the day when there were negotiations, while you were trying to agree on contracts and so on, it also allowed for a connection between school board administration and teachers. So it was a chance to hear from each other. You guys are making decisions about students and about the people who have daily contact with those students, and it was a chance to hear from those people in some way. I think that there are lots of schools, and we have a whole list of schools just around here that do use meet and confer for a variety of sources, variety of resources, but I think it's really about building that relationship that most of them are talking about, and the relationship that we would like is that SEA, and when we say that, we're really representing the school, not just a small select group. But the SEA wants to be problem-solving allies with the board and with administration and not adversaries. We would like to be part of the solution. We would like to talk about all sorts of things. So let's say you're reviewing some policies and you are wondering about the history of it, or how did it get to be this way, or what are the benefits, what are the drawbacks. Maybe we can offer some perspective so you have a bigger picture when you make your decisions, because you're trying to make the decisions that's best for everybody. And while you have a bigger perspective than we do, maybe we can still add something. Some of the things that we were interested in the other schools using meet and confer for would be looking at changes and additions to handbooks, evaluations, calendar development. And I know we had a little bit of an impromptu brainstorming session with Mr. Lickey about our calendar next year and how to utilize some teacher time on that new calendar. And we just come off the top of our head, we were thinking of things that would meet some needs as teachers that we wish we had more time for, but it would also meet the needs for meeting a contract and so on, and we tried to get creative with that. So it was a really nice chance to talk about something that would help everybody. Just different changes in policies, again, we'd like to be a part of that discussion. Certainly we know that we're not making the decision, but we'd like to be a part of the solution. just some different housekeeping issues that might come up. Maybe you want to define things like professional time versus contract time. Are there questions about that, or staff morale, or anything related to students? If there's concerns about certain student body issues, how can we work on that together? Staff concerns, board concerns or questions, administrator concerns. A lot of these groups use their meet and confer to also talk about benefits, compensation, things like that, but I feel like we have a committee for that, and we have board participation on that already, or at least we have in the past, and we're going to be meeting again. So I think maybe if that's working, that's not a direction that we would want to go then, because we wouldn't want to undermine something that's already in place. So we're just thinking it might be helpful to you and to us if you were to be able to hear from the staff, because we don't exactly have a way to connect anymore since Act 10. So we see SEA as, we're trying to set a purpose and change the face of it and be advocates for education and children and to make this school the best it can be. And so we would just like to be a part of whatever that is, brainstorming, solving problems, coming up with creative solutions, suggestions, from the perspective of somebody who's really in the trenches every day, trying to make this all work. So I'll let you continue.
Yeah, and if we were to go this route, we're looking at possibly a quarterly meeting, or as requested by either the SEA or the board or administration, depending on kind of how things go and topics that arise from time to time. And that's really what we want to share with you guys tonight. Did you have any questions for us?
I do.
Yeah.
So, SEA post Act 10 now, do all teachers, are they a member of the SEA?
No. It's members are voluntarily into the organization. We currently have 12 members, and we're growing a little bit, but we can only negotiate for CPI at this time, under Act 10. This is just more a way to touch base on issues from time to time.
And does your group meet on their own? Does your SEA group?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We do. And there are a lot of times that we are, there are many things that we can only represent members for if they have a need, that's part of the organization. But when we're talking about meet and confer, or Mr. Lipke is gracious enough to meet with us in the morning and talk about things, we're really representing our whole school, because we're here for our whole school
That was going to be my next
move
question.
forward.
So when we meet, it's not just for the
No.
12 of you, it's for the body as a whole.
Right, because that policy change or that handbook, that's for all of us. We don't each have separate,
Right.
it's really for our whole school.
So would non-members of the SEA also be welcome in this meet and confer?
Yes, they have in the past. I think we just want to spearhead it and lead it and get the conversations going. And that would be something that maybe if we had our initial meeting, we could set some guidelines, like how, and maybe you'll have a different way to bring concerns forward. Let's say a staff member would like to talk about something. Is that appropriate for meet and confer? Would we come with them? Would they bring it themselves? Would we do it for them? We'd have to decide all of those things so that it runs smoothly and in a positive way. So.
First of all, I like that, the relationship building, I think is very, very important. But I guess what I'm trying to understand, because I wasn't here pre-Act 10 or whatever, is because we have committees, right? And it was already brought up, so we have these committees, and we're on tech committees and communication committees, and we're trying to be involved with those groups. I guess what I would, for future discussion, it would be good to know which committees are already covered, because the purpose of those is exactly what you said, relationship, feedback from the staff, so that the school board starts to know what's going on in the trenches,
Sure.
So what's missing? So that's what I'd like to know, and that goes to the committees we already have or don't have, and I know, that you can have unlimited committees, and I think that would be, we should all mesh together, whatever we're doing, and I understand you're trying to clarify and emphasize the SEA's value, you know, to your members and stuff like that. But I think to the whole school, we just have to weave that together, right? I mean, so that would be my only question is, because I think, I can't speak for the board, but for me, but my observation with this board, we're very interested in feedback from the staff.
Yes.
And I think we've done a lot of things. So I would add that right away. Don't think that we're not trying to do all those relationship buildings and that direct feedback.
Right.
But just, I think what you bring up are some good points, is maybe what are we missing?
Sure.
And then it's one or two things that come in, which then it might find, maybe it's not a quarterly meet and confer, maybe it's another committee is set up, or we do meet and confer, and that gives more flexibility, so.
Well, I'll be the last person to ask for one more committee and one more meeting.
Well, that's part of the
Because-
underlying statement too, is.
There's only so many hours in the day, and I can't find anymore. But to answer part of your question, I think it's always good to reflect and reevaluate. Are we overlapping? Do we have too many things covering the same issues? So maybe a good place to start is to think of this under the heading of working conditions and relationships and things like that. Things that we would have, like the policy changes and just getting more information and discussion before changes are made if it's affecting, the staff kind of
Because,
thing.
I'm sorry, would you guys review all the policies? Because
No.
I'm sure we take that input, because
No,
there's a lot of them.
I'm thinking more along the lines of
Sorry, that was kind of-
staff policies, more along the line of what might be in the handbook.
Yeah, right out, no one.
Handbook,
Sorry, yeah.
working
Good.
rules, working conditions, the work, whatever we call it these days, because it used to be a contract. But now I don't know what it is. It's just that big, thick book that I go back and read and say, what does that say again? But those, just those
Yep,
kinds
no.
of things that come up. So if changes are being made, that used to be something that was negotiated. And now, and I think it's just part of staff morale is feeling like you've had some input, and some say that changes aren't just done to you randomly and you didn't even see it coming. And just wondering, well, why did that happen? Which you have the right to do. But it'd be nice to, if you're a part of that discussion, then you see the bigger picture. It's a little easier to see change as a thing that happens. So,
Great.
Well, the first issue I have for that, I don't know if this is for meet and confer compensation, is this year's calendar with the 7 snow days. That's 7 days the teaching staff has missed, and that's 3.7% of their work year. So I don't know if meet and confers where that should go, or if that should be the compensation committee on the 14th of March's meeting. But if we're going to do it with meet and confer, then I don't know how big that committee gets either, if it's open to anyone serving on it. Then it ends up with 50 people. Well, how do you get something done with 50 people in a room?
I mean, that would be a perfect example of where, I know personally, I would really appreciate the chance to have some input on that and talk about historically, what does it look like? What's your take on it? What's our take on it? What are some solutions to that? And what's a fair compromise or direction to go based on past practice, or what's best for kids, what's the best for morale. There's so many things to consider. I think it would just be, I would appreciate being a part of that discussion. Not that you have to agree or listen or even follow any of that ideas, but at least I would feel really good if I had a chance to share some ideas from the staff with you to consider when you decide what to do about that. I think that it isn't about getting your way, but sometimes just feeling heard is just really good for staff morale. So if we know people can have their voice heard through us or a small group representing them, I think that does a lot for how people feel about working here at Sebastopol.
The school board will be discussing this under new business, but Deb and Ryan will be leaving, so do you have any other questions for them at this time? I guess not. Thank you, though, for coming in and
Thank
giving
you.
us a briefing on your thoughts behind it, and like I said, we've got it under new business, so we'll be
Okay, great.
discussing.
Thank you for
Discussing
your
it further.
consideration.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Good night. Okay, are there any items on the consent agenda that anyone wishes to have removed? Hearing none, the consent agenda is approved then by consent, including donations. Wild Restaurant Concepts, $252.50 to food services. A Raybrook grant for the Sebastopol Computer and Robotics Club, and a Raybrook grant for ProxPad communication devices. Okay, administrator reports, Mr. Hiltz.
You have the reports in your packet, so I'm not going to go through all the details there. I just would like to highlight, the frustration with all of the snow that we've had. It's been difficult, but I did appreciate working with my counterparts here and putting that video together. I think that was a little fun thing that we were able to do in spite of the weather.
Okay, thank you.
He's got to work with choreography, right?
We'll get
Next
better.
time you gotta get up and dance too.
We'll get better. That was-
I'm not complaining, I thought it was awesome. You're complaining, you do something better.
Okay,
Hopefully we'll not have reason to make any more videos.
the bar has been set, that if there are no snow days, it'll be, school's out for the year will be the next one.
I have to tell you though that I had the Notre Dame fight song in my brain for like,
You can't get rid of
I
it.
can't get rid of it.
Mrs. Margraf.
Yeah, to add, I just wanted to add a little piece to my report there, and I really wanted to address you tonight about the Gifted and Talented program. I know that it is a vision of the board, and I just wanted to give you a little bit of an update about what I'm thinking about and some of the things that are in progress right now. I want you to know that I think it's essential that we have something going for the beginning of the school year, so that's kind of where my brain is going. That I've contacted other gifted and talented coordinators to find out how we can start something at Sebastopol. And I'm really interested in talking with schools that are the same demographics and size that we are. And then to highlight a little bit of staff already, there's a lot of buzz about this, and staff are really excited that there are at least 3 to 4 people who come up to me already that says, I really want to be a part of helping, with enrichment, which tags along with that. So this, so my idea or the vision that I have right now is just to start small with those dedicated staff and generate those ideas, and then we'll grow. But that's where I am right now. I mean, it's February, school year is going to be gone before we know it. So I just wanted you to know that, there's some thought and some work in that area. I just wanted to add that.
Thank you. Mr. Bear.
Thank you. My report highlights all the great things happening around our school, and I specifically want to just talk about parent-teachers conferences. It's great to welcome our parents in here. They're a big part of our school's success, and it's just so nice to connect with them in so many ways. So I want to thank our parents for, of course, supporting our school district. A couple of things that I want to highlight. I'm really excited about tomorrow's in-service. We've got a lot of things planned for our staff tomorrow. I think it's going to be a very effective day. Especially excited about the team building activity that we have planned. We're split up into teams, and we're going to have some competition and some fun together as a staff, and I think that goes as far, even further sometimes, than the other work that you do, so it's an important piece. I also just, for a second, wanted to talk about the manufacturing robotics tour that I got a chance to go on with some business leaders here locally, and we went to Steel King, and it was just amazing to see the manufacturing processes where they start with raw materials, and on the other end, they have finished parts that are painted and done, and they weren't touched by human hands once. But there's high-skill employees moving around that facility, making sure those robotics interact and the manufacturing process works well. So we went from Steel King to Lab Midwest, and Lab Midwest is the educational reseller for the equipment, the robots, the tools that are being used in these manufacturing processes. And they use FANUC robots and controllers, which account for the majority of those manufacturing processes, and they're direct resellers to educational institutes. So it's really interesting, and Mr. Phillips has grabbed hold of that. Mr. Sanborn is really interested, and I think our business leaders, our tool is a wonderful tool. So it's one effective. Thank
you. Superintendent's report.
Yeah, I have a handout here from School Perceptions for a senior exit interview and post graduate survey. I we've had some discussion about it. Here's a proposal. I haven't met with School Perceptions, but we had pretty good success with them for the referendum surveys. And I think the last 2 years they've done this staff survey. I think those results have been helpful. So I would picture this fitting in the same area of that. I'd like to bring it back to the board next month as an action item, but I wanted to give you a heads up on the contact I've had with them so far. So.
Anything else from you?
No, that's enough.
That's enough, okay. Communications Committee, do you have a,
Well, basically, we're always plugging away pretty much every meeting on the Pioneer Times because it does come out quarterly and it's a process. Assigning articles, brainstorming what the articles will be timely with the calendar of the school and the events that are going on. That should be hitting your mailbox within about the next,
I think the last week in February or first.
right, I was going to say within the next
And
2 weeks.
early March,
Yep,
yeah.
yep. And we're always blessed to have the involvement of Peninsula Pulse that helps make that happen as well. And then we continue to talk about recognition and the style book. So those are pretty much items that are continuously on the agenda. And then, we've been talking about updates to the website and those items too. So it's a good group. We've been getting a lot done, so.
One thing I'll add to that, in the newsletter, what you'll see this time, we're going to start a alumni spotlight column, so there'll be an address, people can send information to nominate someone.
So that in the future, we're looking to have a continuous article every edition of a spotlighting alumni. So I'm actually working on also posting, having that be a posting to Facebook to try to get submissions. So we have a specific email address that people can send information to or suggestions as to who to spotlight and kind of a brief synopsis as to why and their contact information, which is also a good tool to have for any kind of future alumni connections as well. So, yeah, and thanks to Stephen for helping set that up. So the 5 minutes that it probably took him versus what it would take for 2 minutes maybe. So
We'll go with 5.
Okay. The core planning team is basically the Building and Grounds Committee and Mr. Woodgate. Do you want to start with that?
Sure, we met on the 7th of February and we met again today. On the 7th, Mrs. Markgraf and Callie Asher represented the special ed department, and the 3 high school science teachers came in and talked about science wing and how that area would look. Today it was Dale Carlson from agriculture and Dan Sanborn from industrial arts, and our 2 art teachers, Kara Hutchinson and Clayton Kentz. And so each time the drawings change and the ideas flow and they're getting their input. In March 7th, each grade level elementary will get their opportunity to talk about their areas, and the librarian will get to talk about her area, and the K-12 office staff will get the meeting time as well, and then the subcommittees will also meet after school that day with Bryce. That's my big day. But, I think it's progressing. I don't know. Sue, what do you think?
They told us today, they commented they thought it was moving along really nicely. There are a lot of things to put in place yet, but they felt like where the process is right now is where it should be.
And I think in addition to those special areas, looking at the overall configuration and where things need to go, hallways, bathrooms, those kinds of things.
Our elevation of our building is challenging because you have the cafeteria level, the gym level, the first floor of the 1965 portion, and then the second floor is 65 portion. So tying those 4 levels together and tying it into the 91 edition. So we discussed ramps and steps and elevators and lifts today, and ramps are pretty much out because they're
70
feet long, or you got to do a switchback, and you do 30 feet one way, 30 the other, you're still not there. So it looks like it's going to be steps and elevators and lifts. So
And elevators are costly, but we need to have.
it's where we are here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you talking more than one elevator?
Yes.
Yeah, we have the one we currently have, adding another one, and then a third, either elevator or a lift. Lift is a third of the cost, but you have to make sure you're ADA compliant with what you do. Right.
Strategic Planning Committee. That committee met 2 Fridays, the 8th and 9th of February and the 16th of February. Somebody like to begin on that? Cindy? Sue?
It was long.
Strategic view.
But it was so intense and wonderful. I mean, it was an amazing experience. I think we all left after those 2 Saturdays, 1 Friday, feeling like we wish all of the board members as well as additional staff and community members could participate, because it was, I think we came out with a really meaningful product that we can now funnel over to the action committee to do some good action for.
I think
Spent
there's a good foundation for
Yes.
the action teams to build now strategies to implement what's been established at this point.
It was not surprising that it was an amazingly homogeneous group. Very committed individuals, real thoughtful conversation, really deep-rooted. We got at some real critical issues that helped develop what we feel to be a really good mission statement, vision statement. Real good anchors I think, for the action committees to proceed. I think I thought Aaron did a really nice job of
Aaron Michalski from CC7, yes.
facilitating the process. I'm really glad we went that direction. But I have to say again, I was tired. That was a lot of work. A lot of mental and emotional energy.
Do you, Aaron and Melissa, do you have any?
I think overall the thing that impressed me the most was, we were divided into smaller groups and had our own individual discussions, and the similarities and themes that came up from each of the tables. And yeah, there were some differences, but for the most part, the things that were similar really struck me. That those were powerful because they were so similar at each of the tables. But I would concur. I mean, it was a lot of mental work. I wasn't physically exhausted when we got done, but mentally, I just couldn't believe that first Saturday, especially how tired I was, or for that first Friday, how tired I was. But it was good.
Yeah, the only thing I'll add to it, I think it's been said, it's just the diversity of working with so many different people, and everybody collectively being able to voice what they believe and what they feel. And from that dialogue just came some pretty intense and pretty targeted belief statements that it's really difficult not to get behind. I mean, it's about kids and it's about, the community and what we do here. So it was nice to be a part of something that can grow in the future, and that it would be so well supported.
I think the real heroes of the strategic planning, if you guys, I'm sure you would agree, were our 2 students.
Yes.
They were amazing. They were absolutely amazing. Very active contributors throughout the 3 days together.
They weren't inhibited by all the adults around them, which was great.
Especially that little 8th grader.
Yeah.
My goodness,
It was hard to believe.
she was not inhibited, and her viewpoint on things,
Much more advanced than an 8th grader.
much more advanced than an 8th grader.
It was amazing.
That was, yeah.
Anything from you?
No, I just got to go whatever else said.
No. Mr. Bear, don't feel left out because now you'll be with the action planning teams.
Excited to be part of it.
I heard from 2 of the community members, unsolicited, who said they really enjoyed being there. They would have preferred to go another day with shorter hours and gone another day because they felt like in the end we were just pushing too hard.
We were ready to be done by 3.
Yeah.
That day, it was hard.
Yeah, so if you had days where you're done by 2 or 3 and added another day, I know it's hard for people to get out, but that was unsolicited from 2 community members, so.
That might be something to share with Aaron,
Well, when we look at feedback, yeah, it was great. I worry that as we boiled down to those objectives, that some of the passion from the room in certain areas gets lost because the objectives are kind of generic, but I guess we'll trust the process that the passion carries through. So for anybody that forgot, these go to the action planning teams now, and we'll come back to the strategic planning team, maybe the end of the school year, maybe in the fall, depending on how far we get.
Aaron Allenjuski and I are meeting on Thursday next week, he's coming in, so, and then he wants to just wrap up, clean up our wordsmithing, so.
One thing I would like to add to the committee reports is the legislative updates, particularly now with the state budget coming up and with the feds dealing with hopefully special education funding. And we've heard over and over that our legislators would rather hear from the folks out there who are listening to this video, parents, business people, whoever it might be, rather than us, because they know we're biased. So I really would like to have a legislative update on it. If there is nothing, fine, then we'll just say no report, but I think there's going to be a lot now with the Blue Ribbon Commission recommendations out there. I think we should spend just a couple minutes each meeting on a legislative update. And I know I can send it in writing, but that doesn't get it to the audience.
And that's good. My purpose for having something like that in writing is, I don't process it all, and if an article is referenced or
It'll
a
still be
website
in writing.
referenced, that's why I want it in writing, because then I can go back.
It'll be in writing, but just to highlight some of what needs to be done, so those folks out there can follow up with it.
Okay. I usually don't have a report, but I'm going to use my report tonight as a little soapbox. If you have a chance to talk to the people in your towns, talk to them. I updated the town of Jacksonport on just the building process in January, where we are. There's really nothing to update, but told them what the plan is and what the end date is. And they had good questions. There wasn't negativity. There were good questions. And when I see them, they ask about it. So I think there's interest out there, so let's keep the community involved whenever we can, respecting their interest. This is a soapbox, but since we have an officer of the WASB here and a representative on the WIAA committee, I want to talk about the ACT. The state dictates when the ACT is held. We tell kids to get a good night's sleep, and so they can have a good test the next day. But yet, sectional basketball games are scheduled on the night before ACT, and kids are traveling 2 and 3 hours to the game, playing hard, coming back 2 to 3 hours, and not getting to bed till midnight. So, is there a way for the two bureaucracies, the DPI and the WIA, to say we're not going to do that? We're going to schedule that ACT after the basketball season is over. So kids really have a chance to do well. I know they can retake the test, but it's $70 or whatever it is every time. So that's my soapbox on that.
WASB does have a representative on the WIAA committee, and you know who it is.
Right.
Bill Gaines.
And maybe someone has asked this question in the past, and I can't imagine that they haven't, but that's my soapbox on that
We have
tonight.
to find out how the DPI picks their day, and
Because if it was a Monday, well, they went to a sporting event on a Sunday night, or if it was on a Thursday, they can't on a Wednesday.
right, but Monday's not the best testing day of the week.
Right,
By
I'm
my
just-
preference, but yeah, I know what you mean.
Right.
We know Wednesday's first night of regionals was Tuesday, and almost all teams are in action except for
And,
Luzerne.
and it's not just Sebastopol that travel, there are teams all over the state that have to travel.
Mhm.
So if we really wanted to give them the rest opportunity in the ACT, we're not going to do it on a night that they're out until midnight. That's my soapbox on that. My other soapbox is the conference math team. That season is held in January and into February, and it's on Monday nighs. So I know that there are students that don't go out that should be on the math team because they play basketball. And I'm sure that must happen in other schools too. So there, again, I know we're not going to find a Monday, Tuesday, or Thursday night in January and February when there's not a basketball game. But if they held that season after the boys' state basketball tournament, the only thing kids might be missing are some practices in the spring. They would not be missing games because spring season starts so late. So I would like the principals to talk about that and see if they can't try a different schedule next year and see if we can get more kids out, give them more opportunity. That's my soapbox for tonight. Budget report.
Well, today was a big day for the budget. We financed our bonds for the long term for $20 million. We locked in an interest rate, and if you're getting a handout from Baird, if you go to page 4, let's say bond summary stats, in the second set of numbers, it says the true interest cost, we locked in at 3.408774%, so 3.41 basically. And when we did our projections for the referendum, the numbers Baird used was between 4.25 and 4.75. So if we came in at 3.4, we locked in today. This is on the 20 million that we got in January, received in January. The remaining 5.1 will be next January, February. What the interest rate will be at that time, I can't tell you. No one can really guesstimate what that's going to be, but we're pretty fortunate. The lion's share of our borrowing is at 3.41%. So that's exciting. They compared us to a couple of districts that have locked in the last couple of weeks, and ours was the lowest. So, all right, well, now tomorrow it'll drop again, but we're okay. We'll take 3.41. So,
Yeah,
And with that, we also got our bond rating, or our Moody's rating. And to give you a little perspective, Green Bay is at a AA, and we were a capital A, small A2. So it's about as best as we could have expected to get A, because we don't have a lot of borrowing in that out there. We haven't done a lot of borrowing in, the last how many years, and we do not really have any major manufacturing, or our tax base is dependent upon the land values and that. So, but I mean, Baird was very happy with, they seem very happy with it, and with that rating is the reason why we got the interest rate that we did. So.
Well, and for numbers fun, since you were just talking math team, you darn near locked in at pi.
Yes.
I wouldn't understand that part. I wouldn't understand that part.
3.41 is pretty exciting. We're looking at 4 1/4, 4 3/4. So that's exciting.
Anything else on the budget?
No, that's.
I'm going to step back. I missed the student representative report. We met last week. We had a great, they've only been able to meet once in the past month due to the snow. We met last week and had a brainstorming session to prioritize issues for the remainder of the year. Lack of microwaves in the lunchroom remains a concern. The students were asked what their issues were, and the issues are many students are often late to lunch meetings, SAD, Project 180, Student Council, etc., because they have to stand in line and wait to heat their lunch. It reduces the amount of time to socialize and eat. Many students shared what they have observed in other schools' lunchrooms. I don't know what they've observed in other schools' lunchrooms. I did ask how many microwaves there are. There are 2 small microwaves. Students can't share and put 2 items in. Vending machines, can we get some healthy snacks and drinks? I asked what they meant by healthy snacks. Fruits, bags of nuts, Cliff-type bars, white and chocolate milk, and that is not intended to compete with the lunch program. It's for before school or after school when they have practices. Chromebook discussion, students shared their concerns, frustrations, and also some positive outcomes they have experienced over the last month. And we did not have time to discuss an action plan, but we will be forming an action group to research a digital display screen for our main entrance There was a student that's began that a couple of years ago, but didn't get it done before they graduated. So I know, Mr. Lukey, you have some vision on that, so they should probably touch base with you.
Yeah, with the new entrance in a couple of years, I'd like to have a board or a display monitor where the parents come in and wait and they can see it as they're coming in. You know, like the Pioneer News the kids do on Friday is absolutely fantastic, and that could loop through there as well, would be my vision. So whatever they get, I'd like to have it be portable because it should be where most people get to see it, so.
So that's what they're working on. Facilities report.
Facilities report. The cafeteria decorum committee has met a couple of times. They were going to meet with the representative from EBI yesterday, but it got snowed out, so they're rescheduled for next Wednesday. And then 1965 gymnasium. Did you guys meet yesterday?
We didn't,
Because of snow?
because of the snow. The
Okay.
majority of members felt like they didn't want to travel.
Sure.
That little group will meet next week, and Rock is going to be there with some decisions relative to color and things like that that have to be made in a rather timely way. I don't know that those will all get made in one meeting. They might have to meet a couple of times, but it was a nice little group of former coaches, some community members, and our teacher for guidance on that. And then also the larger discussion after that, the larger discussion between me and the communication committee will be the banners and plaques and recognition and how those are rearranged, because the foyer will get kind of a new look as well.
And the other thing on the radar is our red shed in the back parking lot. When construction occurs, that is in the way. It's right next to the propane tank, and both will have to be moved, or we'll have to consider a new shed. Depends if it's worth moving that shed and putting it up someplace else or not. So Rock had an estimate on moving it, and he's working on a couple estimates of building the same type of shed in a different location, more where the buses park, because that's going to have to come down. I mean, it's in the way with new additions. So, yeah. Go ahead.
Are they talking about the schedule? I never thought of that until you just brought this up. Are they starting to talk about having that actually done before construction starts? Because there might be time permitting to do that, or what?
Yeah, like this summer or
Yeah,
fall,
all right,
right?
yeah,
Because we
yeah,
probably break
all right.
ground in spring of,
Because then that's out of the way.
yeah, spring of 20,
Free to
that's
go.
out of the way, exactly.
And the stuff can.
Right now, it is, that and the propane tank are, have to be moved, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, any other questions on facilities? If there are none, we'll move on to the old business of the 2018-19, this year's school calendar.
In your board packet, you have a graph that tells you how we're doing. We're short now with the 7 snow days and the 2-hour delay, so we need to make up 22 hours. If we change May 10th from in-service day to student attendance, which was in the calendar originally, and added June 7th as student attendance day rather than in-service day, that would gain us some hours. Plus, if we could add 10 minutes on to each school day beginning March 4th, then we'd have an additional 2 hours of cushion, and we'd be back on track for this year.
That's with no more snow days though.
That's correct. The only other thing is if you, well, then we wait and see what happens in the next month and a half, and then we have to add on in June.
But that would be coming back on Monday.
Yeah, so I would hope we'd have 2 or none. I'm really rooting for none, but yeah.
Do you want to add more minutes? Can we add more minutes?
Well, I wouldn't add more than 10 because you're stretching out those 4K and kindergartner days because we all ride the same buses, and I wouldn't want to stretch out their days any longer. And our 4K through 6th grade have plenty of hours because they're required 1,050 hours compared to 1,137. And there's been no discussion at the state level of forgiving any days. If you've heard that, that's urban legend, I guess, yeah. No, that's not, yeah, that's not occurring.
Kyle, how did you come up with this plan? How did you orchestrate this?
How did I come up with it? I sat down with the numbers and I looked at how much time we're short after the 7 days and 2 hours we're off. and then I figured it out. Yeah, and then I ran past ad team and said, I think this is the best way going forward. We talked about the 10 minutes, do we do 5 ahead and 5 behind, stretch out 5 minutes each way, but in the spring, there's so many activities where the kids leave at the end of the day, so we want to put it on the beginning of the day. It also helped the high school schedule out, because all of our lunches, K-12 is one cafeteria, though, obviously, and they're all using it, so it's easier if it's before the lunchtime than after.
So you'd you'd start early.
7:55 for the high school, middle school students, right?
Instead of 8:05.
Right.
For another year, do we need to build in more time to prevent this kind of situation?
That'll be on the next page. For the,
Yeah.
that's the next item on the agenda, yes. Yeah. Right.
But this is not typically this hasn't been a typical winter.
Well, we had 3 plus the in-service day, but then we had 7 plus a 2-hour delay, right?
Right.
Is there a motion to approve this, this plan for,
I move to approve the recommended change to the in-service days, or those, maybe help the wording, and then add 10 minutes to the beginning of the day.
I'll second that.
any other questions or comments on this one?
Would you like me to read how I've got it worded? It says, motion by Mr. Cracken-Richmond with a second by Mr. Zahn to accept proposal of changing May 10, 2019 and June 7, 2019 from in-service days to student attendance days and add 10 minutes to the daily schedule each day beginning March 4, 2019 to make up for lost minutes due to school day cancellations from inclement weather.
Perfect.
Well done, good motions.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Then we look at the 2019-2020 school year.
This calendar, if we had the same start and end time as we now have for March 7th or March 4th and beyond, the student days would be 175, 172 would be full days, 3 early releases. It would have, if it extra 10 minutes per day, 1,165.8 hours, which is 4.3 snow days. So if you want to build in more than 4, it's fine. This allows us to have the students done with school on May 29th, and then construction could start. It does have a spring break in conjunction with Easter of Monday, Thursday, Good Friday, and the Monday after Easter in April. I don't know, it's
So next year, you're proposing the extra 10 minutes?
10
in the
minutes
school
and
day
give
as
us,
well.
and end in May. I would recommend graduation to be May 31st, that's Sunday, because I wouldn't hold it on Memorial Day weekend. And I wouldn't have it on the 17th of May, that's too early with 9 school days afterwards. But, yeah, now I'm gun shy with 4.3, is that enough to get us through a winter?
Well, but you have in-service days that we could use, like there's that in-service day on March 13th if we had to,
If we had to.
as well
Mhm.
as,
It would be interesting to know what our rolling average is like for 10 years of school days.
I can get that for you real quick. I have it in a spreadsheet of how many days we've been out. If you want, I can.
For the last 10
10
years?
years?
For the last, yes.
I mean, what are the odds? What are the odds that we need more than 3?
Let's go get it, well, we'll have a different discussion, we'll let you go.
Yeah, well, this has to be really unusual in the last 10 years, I think.
From what I might.
Well, that's my point. What are the odds that we need more than 3 or 4
But then again,
days?
last year, what were the odds of an April snowstorm?
Yeah.
After spring break, we
as long
had,
as we don't have that again as well.
because we did adjust the calendar twice last year. We adjusted it in March, and then we had an after spring break, a late start, early release, and a snow day after, who's gonna get 31 inches
And
and.
what we had last year,
Saturday.
it started on Friday night. If it had started on Sunday night, we would have had probably 4 days off of school last year because of the snowstorm. 5 years ago, we didn't have school the day we were supposed to come back from Christmas vacation as well as the next day. Because we had severe cold. So our Christmas vacation was 2 days longer, right from we started off. So I
Right.
mean,
So if we wanna build in more days, that's fine. Do you build in 5, 6, maybe you build in 6 and say, okay, if we don't use them, we're gonna end earlier. I don't know.
So Because that's what you do, right? If you don't use them, then you.
No, if we don't use them, we just go to the whatever day, if we say,
Wrap up early.
whatever day it is, we just say that's, right now, if we adopted this calendar, we said May 29th, and if we had no snow days for the whole year, our kids would be in session 1,165. We would never say we're ending on the 27th because we're fine. We would say, okay, we're gonna go to the 29th, because you pick your end date, but maybe you wanna do June 2nd, June 3rd, and say, okay, if we don't use those, we can back it off, and we can judge it in April after the last snowstorm hits.
And this adds 10 minutes for the entire year, right? 10
Right.
minutes a day.
10 minutes a day makes quite a difference
Right.
compared to adding it now here in March, April, May is, 3 of your 9 months, you don't get as much.
So how does that work, the hours, or do you add a minute onto each class or something, or what?
Mr. Bear's got some ideas on how he'd like to use that time.
I'm hoping to add some intervention time with students.
Oh.
We're looking at our morning break time because not a lot of students are utilizing the breakfast at the break time. But Casey Andrews has some options of still getting the students the food they need and combining it and rolling it, so. And the other discussion point is, this year the staff contract was 189 days. In this proposal with the in-service days being similar as past practice, there's 184 staff days. And so when the compensation committee meets on March 14th, a discussion item will be, there's 5 less days of staff working for teachers in their contracts. So what's the value of that when you're settling what compensation should be? Like Ms. Dantoine said, they had some ideas. One was a floating in-service day in August. Others was staying late one night a week for meetings. So there's things we got to consider, and maybe that's meet and confer compensation at this point. But if you're dropping 5 days of staff working, the pay should reflect that. So.
Well, I think it's a discussion point, because quite frankly, if we would flip it around and say we need you to report 5 more days, there'd be some serious discussion in that happened too.
Yeah, if you went from
I'm just saying it's a fair discussion.
right, if you went 189 to 194, people would say, well, we got 5 more
Correct.
days here.
You're saying it is a fair discussion to have.
Right. Yeah.
And this is because of that calendar that she shared from the Oshkosh School District, right? This
The
is new layout.
layout format, yeah, we borrowed this from Oshkosh. Ms. Dantoine saw it. I told Stephen, figure out how to do it like Oshkosh does it, and he stole it from them, so.
They were very nice.
Yeah, they said, here it is, so it's
Oshkosh
it's much cleaner. Yeah, Oshkosh,
It's easier to understand.
it's much easier to read, and, yeah, you got your month and you look to the left. Christmas next year is the 24th, is a Tuesday, so really you don't come on the 23rd, and so that's 2 weeks there. So December is a very short month for students with only 15 days. It's three solid weeks, and that's it. So that's where the dates lie. I mean, that's what it is. But I kind of thought, when we had student council, spring break's important. I thought, well, here at least you get 5 days at Easter. That's pretty good.
Way back there.
That is thanks to my predecessor, that there is a report we have to fill out every year. That's what happened, and how many days you got off and stuff, so. And if you look on the backside, it finishes last year and this year.
Yeah, see, look, 16, 17 had 2 snow days, and 15, 16 had 3, 14, 15 had 1. Ugh.
It was cold.
Yeah, 13, 14 was a cold year. You got 4 cold days on there.
2013, 14, there were 5 and 2 early dismissals.
Right. And 12, 13 had 3 and 1 early dismissal. 11, 12 only had 2. 1 was a wind, no electricity day, so.
September? That's no day.
Yeah, no electricity, yeah. So.
Well, we had one in April.
Yeah, so you look at it, so
Three or 4, I think, what would What'd you say, we have 4.5?
4.3 built in.
If you do averages, we're above the average, I'd say.
The two state parks.
I mean, I think it's a valid question we just wondered. If you look at our history, forward cover almost every year except 1 or 2 of them in the last many.
Unless you go to the 90s.
Yeah, but even in the 90s, you only had 2 years that were bad.
A lot of times, you know, just.
405, there was none.
94, 95, there was
So
0.
the last 2 years have been bad.
This is very interesting, Carl.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, so you know, are you gonna have your like 14, 15 where you use one day, or are you gonna have 7 like this?
It is interesting to, if I heard the flexibility right, is we added a few more days, and then if you don't use them, we just end early. I like the ending early, the flexibility of just wrapping up early.
Yeah.
Versus that other thing you said is, when we pick our end date and there's days baked in, we still go to the end date?
We've always gone to the end date, correct?
So basically in those years, they got their snow days in education, because you used them.
Right, I'm pretty sure that like in 2014-15, where you used only one day, they had some days built in and they just kept rolling, because you know when graduation is, you know, last day of school is, no one said, oh, we're gonna move that up. And it's changed over time when they went from days to hours.
I don't know what
Yeah,
caused
it's
this
different.
to school operations, but that flexibility seems good, because then you kind of have the days in there, and then you just wrap up early. What kid or
And
family
it's-
you want to
it's,
have.
One thing we do. is
it's
we
less
set-
pain.
I'm sorry,
No, go ahead.
we set year-ending events and graduation, like for example, we might have a class trip on the last day of school, and so we have to make reservations in order to accommodate the student size of group that we
Right.
might be facilitating. We also set 8th grade graduation as a result, so we're promoting that to families, we advertise that. So having a firm end date really helps.
So if I may, in discussion, so keeping, that all makes very good sense, by the way, saying 3 years in. But what happens if they're off for 2 days and they're done, they come back for 8th grade graduation? Just keep the same date, and same with the high school kids. They get out early, they got 2 days, so either they can start their summer job or have fun, and then come back for their senior trip, or graduation. I don't know what kind of challenges that offer. I mean, to me, I'm like, not a real big deal, but maybe it is, you know. I do respect all that reservation and coordination, those days need to stay. But, right, maybe it's too much chaos if the kids are free for 2 days and then you gotta get them back on track for 1 day, I don't know. Maybe, just for discussion.
I may interject on that day, when I graduated, the school, last day of school was on Wednesday, we didn't graduate until Saturday. So, I mean, everybody was there for graduation, and the storm came and wiped us out, so.
And then we do a
That's right, the tornado. Ooh, that's exciting in the gym.
We did it with no electricity. But now our seniors actually are done before the end of the school year.
Right.
so.
How would you work the 8th grade class trip? Because that's the class, is that what that's one of the things you're talking about, right?
Well, we always have 8th grade graduation the night before the last day of school. Then we do our Bay Beach trip. I don't know, Erin, you've brought in different things to her, the elementary has in the past too. I think there are definitely options that can be looked at both ways.
Because if I may follow up, the alternative is, you have those dates fixed, and then this year we have to add 2 more days. So then, right, we still don't change them, so you have these end-of-day trips, but then, hey, everybody come back to school for 2 more days, right? We'd have to do that. And you could actually you'd actually have graduation, but then everyone would come back for another 2 days. So I'm just, you're right, for discussion purposes, we may have to deal with some crazy logistics anyways.
Well, and this is only
Based
for
on
2
Mother
years.
Nature.
This scenario is only a short term. I mean, this is kind of dealing with our part of the
Yeah,
reason
it's trying
what
to
we're
get us
doing
out
is
to a
to
good
get
construction season.
construction.
Right.
So back in 2021-22 school year, we'll be back into the normal routine, and other than dealing with snow days.
So there's two, what we're talking about is the flexibility with the.
It's just
snow.
amazing
So
how
it would
slow
still-
it this year, yeah.
If some options were not pre-selected, we could carry those through the future calendars. If the admin team thought it was good for the school and that.
And I'm just thinking of this right now because I don't think we've discussed this as a team before, but also, you set up your curriculum and your pacing and your assessments and according to the flow of your school year, so.
That's true, yeah.
Lots of things to
All
consider.
your tests at the end.
Psychologically, if we're gonna worry about days, adding those days and then giving them back to people is better than saying, oh, we've gotta go 2 more days or 3 more days.
Well, that could be for
So
feedback
maybe-
from the staff, I mean, is, ask your staff, I think, they all might say, yep, I'm rigid, we shouldn't change it, and others might say, well, yeah, I can make up 3 days and test early, and not a problem, I don't know. Some might agree, some might not, because some curriculums are more flexible, others are maybe more rigid, I don't know.
So do we think we need to add more snow days to 2019-20?
I think by what you see, I think you've probably got enough right now.
Is there a motion then to accept this proposed 19-20 calendar?
I'll move to accept the 1920 calendar.
Any other questions or discussion regarding the calendar?
Just do you guys want to explore the snow day thing for future, or we're good the way it is and carry on?
I think we have 4.3 built in here. I think we'll be okay, but, I don't know what the weather's gonna be next year. But I think 4.3, if you look, especially when Carl went got the numbers and showed you that
Yeah, I think
vast
that-
majority of the years,
yeah,
4 is
we didn't use it.
plenty. If you go back to
2000, my point
Yeah.
specifically was, is there any reason to continue the discussion past this meeting to see if putting some flexibility into the end of the year is a good idea or not? So then because then you could, even if it's at 4, let's say obviously you don't use at 4, would you wrap up 3 days early? So my specific question,
Okay.
so we're good on the calendar. The
Yeah.
specific question was, is it worth furthering the discussion to talk with you and your staff and the admin team to say at the end of the year, do we want some flexibility so that if we didn't use our snow days, we wrap up early? And we have a break before graduation or not?
Well, I thought you were concerned about the teachers getting all their days in and their salaries and everything. You quit 2 days early, aren't you gonna have to? do
Yeah, then
something
you're
else?
going to cause,
If you remember what I said, I'm
Right.
talking about a further discussion.
right.
And those all things we could discuss.
Well, that would be a meeting concern.
And if nobody wants to do it, then don't do it.
I would say once we set our
I'm
end date,
here.
I would just leave it, the 29th of May is plenty early, and I'd have graduation on the 31st, because I wouldn't have it on Labor Day weekend, I certainly wouldn't have it on the 17th of May with 2 weeks to go. And then if we end up getting 5 snow days, okay, then June 1, you're back on.
Thank you, I was just curious.
But that's why this year I'm hoping if it snows again, we get 2 snow days, not 1. I don't want to come back on Monday. I don't want to come back at all, the kids come back at all, but if we had to, coming back for Monday, because I bet attendance is pretty low on that day.
Well, and I think you probably aren't gonna get a lot of learning done that day either.
Well, it'll be 75 degrees,
I know.
beautiful outside.
You're
and-
sort of
Right.
out of it already.
Mhm.
Okay, any other discussion? I think people are gonna love getting out May 28th, and that's the way they want to do it every year. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion is carried. The Skyward accounting module software purchase.
You have the information in your packet about it. Biggest reason we want to do this is the system we have now is we've had it about, I think I want to say about 6 years. And we've lost our local, and when I mean local, I mean out of Madison support. Because the system we have now, Alio, there's not many schools be using it. I think the last word I heard, there's only like 15 districts that still use it. Skyward is used by all districts in the county, so you have that support group in your district county schools alone, and even the Kewaunee County schools use it too. I've talked to all of the business managers from all of the Kewaunee and Door County schools, and they said they love it. With this program, you can also add on we use PowerSchool now for our student information system. Skyward also has basically the same system that you can add on to it. They also have food service addition to it, and they also have transportation. And Rock has talked to other people with the transportation, he said it's very good. Casey would love to have the food service part added into it also. The proposal you have right now is just for the business office at this point in time.
With that being said, would there be a savings if we did bundle, and if you were to look at the prices for the programs we're using in those other departments currently compared to the prices for this company?
I do not know that, an answer to that. We have not even looked into that. Because I don't know exactly. I don't know exactly what we pay for Power School, and we really don't have a transportation system or program, and we really don't have. Power School is our food service, and Casey hates it. I don't know what it all
Does this replace
entails.
Power School?
What's that?
This would replace Power
If
School?
we put on the student services.
It doesn't, the way it
addition.
stands now.
This does not.
You can just,
bookkeeping.
you can just.
This is just a
This
financial
is just
software.
finance for right
But they
now.
also offer something.
But they also have.
Because Power School's also grades though too.
If
Yes,
this is software,
but-
why is it a per student pricing?
That is how all of your software is. Alio is even, when you buy Alio or any student, Power School, it's all done by a per student. Because if you have a larger school, you are into it more and there's more issues with it and things like that.
Well, that's a neat marketing. Okay.
I went to a meeting a couple weeks ago and I talked to the business manager of Appleton School District. They went from Alio to Skyward a year ago and they're still having problems. However, I asked him, how many employees you have? He says, I have 1,800 employees.
Oh.
So he's on a much larger scale than what I am. And he said, Skyward has been great as far as helping him through it, but there's just been a lot of issues that, they're having a hard time getting. He says, if I could go back to Alio, I would. He's the only one I've ever heard have anything bad to say. There is an option. You see the price there of the 65,630. We have an option, we can split that. We would pay half now when we sign the contract, and then the other half would be paid beginning of the new fiscal year in July, or we could pay it all now at one time. With the system we have right now, our yearly service fee in 16-17 was $7,862. 17-18 was $8,098, and in 18-19 was $8,034. For the next 3 years, or $7,500 is our price, is our yearly maintenance price for Skyward.
What does that maintenance bring you?
Anytime you have an issue, you call them up and they work you through your problem.
In person or over the phone? I mean, like, they don't come here, right?
If you need to have them come, that may cost you a little bit, depending upon what the issues are. This 6,500, if we want people to come here and train us in person, they will do that for no extra charge. But they said most of the time they usually do it all online and through webinars and stuff like that.
And who would all use this software? Is it just you?
Right now, just myself and Gene. But with that, this also, with this system, all staff, when they have a requisition, can start a requisition with this system, send it to the principals to have it approved, and get sent, so you can do it all basically online, and nothing goes through until it is approved. Okay, so nothing comes to us without approvals. And that's an issue that we have right now with the paper. It's like, they sent down, I need this. Well, you haven't, either A, you haven't done a requisition, or B.
So there's some workflow management, so they could
Right.
log onto this with an
Yes.
account, I assume that would.
And they would only
And
have,
they submit it,
right.
and then you or Gene would approve it?
Well, it would go, once it
One of those probably then
goes
me.
to the principals and then goes
That's
to
me.
Mr. Lukey, then.
All through this application, so you get a reminder, hey, log in and approve these things or review them.
Also, this whole thing, they would be able to do all their budgets online, and they would also be able to see what they have available in their budgets.
And
Just
those
by-
are all things that you can't currently do.
That we
though.
cannot do that right now. We cannot even do, well, all the budgets we have right now, they there is a spreadsheet that they have to fill out, and they hate them, and they bug us every year, but it's what we have, and then all the budgets have to be input manually by myself. This also has, and I'm not exactly sure how it's going to work with us, but it also has True Time, what they call. Basically, it's for your hourly employees to be able to clock in and use it as your timekeeper. The only question, the reason why I say I'm not sure how it's going to work with us, because we have, especially our aides, some work part of the day in special ed, and then part of the day they're not special ed, which is 2 different pay rates. So I don't know if they have to get out of it and then punch back in. That's something I have to figure out. But what they were telling us in the presentation, even your people who are doing your additional work, like working game, scorekeepers and stuff like that, can go into this system. So it could save me some time doing payroll. We'll have to see how it all, fits together and goes. And this would also transfer over, because right now we're looking at March 1 starting it and going live October 1. Which means all of the W-2 information would all have to be switched over, so we don't have to process 2 W-2s at the end of the year. Well, with the old system, on with the new, they would process that all over, and that is included in this price.
I think it sounds great, all the schools are using it, and I assume this can't be affected, because I think this is the only licensing scheme that software guys use around here for schools. Because I'm telling you, if 6 people use it, then some staff members, but they throw the 600 number on it, that's just how they bill all the schools, right?
Yeah.
There's no other way around it. I'm just
That's-
whining, sorry.
No, and that's a good question, because I asked them about that, and I talked to other schools like Sturgeon Bay has this, they have an older system of this, and I asked their business manager, I said, how do you get billed? He said, by our student count.
On one date, our formals, so every year it can go down if we go down.
If it goes down, yeah. No, actually, that is just your initial price.
Oh,
That
then
they're
you-
charged by.
Yeah, and then it's
by
just
student, and then
that
it's just a
follow-on cost
flat-
with the 7,500.
It's 7,500 be flat fee for the year, for your support fee and that. But then they also do all the updates, they do all the tax updates and any reporting updates or anything like that, they take.
So your
care of all that.
withholding charts, all that stuff.
Where do
is
they,
updated.
okay, so it talks about security, they got good security?
Good
And where is the
security.
data stored and backed up?
Their main office is in Stevens Point. It's all on the cloud, which is the same as the system I use now, where like with the last snow day that we had, I did payroll at home
Right,
on this system, which this one.
but this company has a secondary presence, because when you say it's on the cloud, that's cool, but it's physically stored somewhere.
Yes, yes.
And if that gets hit by a tornado, I assume this company
Yes,
has
they
a backup
have, yes,
mirrored
they-
somewhere else?
Their
So
main,
they do all that good stuff?
their main, I'd say headquarters, I guess, is in Stevens Point, but they have satellite places. One is in Dallas and one is in, I want to say Pennsylvania somewhere, and there's one other one. So there's three other satellite smaller buildings or offices around the country. So it's not just centrally located in one place.
Thank you.
But
They
they're-
have a huge facility in Stevens
Stevens,
Point.
yeah.
WASB has had them as a sponsor in the past, and we've toured their facility, and they have a lot of young people who really seem to know what they're doing.
Right.
I do think that whatever the training is needed, you guys should make sure you get enough training.
Oh, definitely. And that's the thing that I walked into when I came in a year and a half ago, is I had never seen I'll never used it, and I'm still trying to learn.
Yeah.
And Jean's on board, I mean, she's ready to go now with it, because just the support that we do not have anymore.
Are you
There
just
was-
talking or you need a motion?
Is there a motion to approve the Skyward County purchase?
So moved.
Second. I want to make sure that we capture that additional training cost. If you guys want to do it in person, I think it'd be worth it.
I'll find out.
Knowing how to use that tool can be, you'll make them, it's very dynamic, it sounds like.
Right.
But if you're not trained on it, you don't know where to be,
No,
tweaks are in the
and-
menus, you know.
Well, like next week, Carl's going to the
Federal funding.
federal funding conference. He has to continue to do that, to stay current on all the different issues out there, because it's a complex world he lives in. So, yeah, so he has to, he went last year as well.
Yeah, I went last year.
And the second time in, he's gonna, first time it's gotta be like
I just
swimming.
wanted to give you the
deep end,
flexibility that
yeah.
you can spend that money without having to come back to us.
Right, no, we'll get him trained, yeah,
You want to
absolutely.
read that back, Carl? Because I just kind of made a general statement.
I have motion by Mrs. Today with a second by Mr. Kaczmarczyk to approve the purchase of Skyward accounting module software.
Any other questions or comments?
I just want to ask a question. Does it make sense to have any additional staff, Carl, other than just you and Jean?
No, because we're the only ones who do anything with the accounting part of it.
I get that, but just, even just.
Hot backup type of, you know, you're on vacation, Gene gets sick, who does payroll?
There is none.
Well, that's her question. That was her question.
What this will do with both of us learning this, well, and to
I
be,
would call some of this deal.
you laugh at that, but it's like we have to plan our vacations, because I'm going to Ireland in June, it's like, okay, we're leaving here, payroll will be done, I get back here, I can do payroll, you know, that's kind of how you plan it. But with learning this system, both of us at the same time, Gene and I can be cross-trained on how to do both sides. You know, because that, right,
She didn't like this system.
right now, Gene cannot do payroll because she doesn't know how, she's never been trained. And part of that was.
My only question is whether or not that's sufficient.
Yes.
Well, if you want to know if we need another person in our office, I'm not going to say no.
I might
However-
I would add it this way, if I may, is there are ways within your staff to have somebody as kind of a designated backup. So they're not really there, but they're a staff member, they're here all the time, they go to do the training, and then hopefully never, but the once or twice a year that crazy things happen and you're stuck in a ditch and Gene can't get here, you can still run payroll.
Right.
That's all, and it doesn't mean, unless you make,
here.
well,
Yeah, no, I mean,
so that's what.
Carl's got big shoulders, yeah.
But I
No, I'm sorry, I was just adding on.
But in
No, I would call up Jacob from Sturgeon Bay and say, hey, we're in a bind here.
Oh,
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what you do, they reach out and
Well,
the small districts
most
count
likely
on
this,
each other,
the
right?
company would help you.
Well, right, and but like, and what Kyle just said there, with all districts in the county having the same system, either A, you could possibly get somebody from another district if something bad happened, or they could walk somebody through that is here. So we have more local support, but like I said, with this, Gene and I doing this, going through the training together, we're gonna be cross-trained on how to do both sides. Just for a backup and that, because right now, we do
Right now,
not
we don't
have,
have that, no.
we do not have it. And that was one of the issues that the auditors did say, that, you know, we don't have backup like that, so.
Well, they can have further discussion on that as they need to. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Have fun. WASB report from the three people that went to the convention, Whitney, Sue, and Cindy.
What I'm handing out there is the website for WSAB, and where you can actually go and find all the handouts on each session that the three of us attended, because there's PowerPoints, there's handouts. I could have killed you with an amount of paper, you know, for each of you printing all that out, so we're not gonna do that. So if you're interested in any of those topics, that's what you can go. It was a really good convention this year.
It was excellent, and I did include this in my report
Right.
for the sessions I attended.
The only thing I would have changed was the last speaker. I didn't,
Yes,
you know, but
yeah.
otherwise it was really good, yeah.
Isn't
I thought
Speak
that
with the governor?
No, it's not the governor, I did not say that. No.
But that's the last speaker.
I didn't, no, it was a principal from Philadelphia, and our three individuals could have got up there and
Couldn't
given the
relate.
same, well, no, but they could have given exactly the same speech without any prep, I mean, it
Thomas
wasn't.
L. was.
Yeah, he was, no.
Steve Pemberton was wonderful, one of the keynote speakers, and Michelle
Yes.
Golda as well. Two out of the three were really good. The other one wasn't bad.
It wasn't bad, it just wasn't my favorite, no. It
Yeah.
kind of goes on,
Outstanding.
yeah.
Any questions for the members, or maybe if you go to the website and come have questions, we can put them on the next agenda.
There's a really nice handout on the one that I went to on now that your referendum is passed, what's next. So I'd really encourage board members to pull that one up. It just gives you food for thought and around construction and cosmetic stuff and just things that you don't necessarily think about at the front end after your referendum passes and you're moving toward a new building. So
Probably very appropriate now for, especially for us.
A lot of these apply directly now.
Yeah.
Those are good meetings up there.
And I know mental health is a huge issue for this board. I just encourage you to look at the stuff there too, around mental health and school safety. And there's just some amazing statistics around that. And I had the opportunity to share with Melissa one of the PowerPoints on teachers' mental health. We pay attention to children's mental health here at Sebastopol, but the next layer is just the assurance that we're taking care of our teachers. And
Can I add something?
Sure, go.
Yeah, tomorrow in our in-service from 8 to 8:30, we're talking about that specifically. So we're talking about trauma-informed care and how that is really important for us to promote at school and be a trauma-sensitive school. But we're taking a little bit of a step back and talking about what's staff wellness, because we need a well staff in order to, to be ready to work with our students who are, in need too. So it's only a 30-minute session, but we're really, we're going to start the process that way. It was very helpful to get such current information about the statistics out there about what the stress level of teachers. So we can identify with it and address it as a staff. So thank you for that.
That governance tool, one goal monitoring and accountability, is really a good follow-up to our strategic planning and how to ensure that we are monitoring what we say in our plan and that we are accountable for what we say.
Okay, so everybody check out the website, and if you have questions about specific topics, we'll bring them back. A discussion on a review of the district safety drill.
Annually, we have to have a safety drill. The principals wrote this up, and even though Mr. Hills wasn't here last year, Mr. Bear went over the procedures on what we did on April 27th and the trainings that were offered, especially by Sergeant Albertson. And since then, we've had how many safety meetings at the county level. We've all participated. Oh, and Aaron LeClaire presented at the school board convention this year. I went to his session. I didn't learn anything because I've been through it all of a sudden, but it was really interesting how people showed up. It was, it was great. So it was really neat that he was one of the speakers, and a lot of people came to that session to hear. So it was nice to see that our county is on the front line of it. Yeah, so that was great, yeah. So,
And this now has to be filed with DPI.
yes, right. And we'll do another one again this spring. Yeah. This will be an annual event, so, yeah.
Any questions on that? Okay, and then we will go back to the meet and confer.
In your packet, there's a form that's a staff concern form. Sue and I attended a one-day seminar with Dr. Muhammad, and this is what he used with the district. The portions I really like about it is the staff member has to sign their name to it, so they're taking ownership of it. They tell you how serious of a concern they think it is, one being not minor, being minor, and 5 being the most severe. They tell you what the concern is, and then they have to have a suggestion or how to make it better, or how to solve it. And the district he worked with in this, they met every 2 weeks because they had some real issues, and it took them a while. And he said the first issue they had, the person marked down as a 5, and it was no cutting board in the teacher's workroom for them to cut construction paper. And the person put it down as a 5. And so the principal bought 2 cutting boards in the thing and solved the problem. After they meet, they print out what the concern was, what the solution is. They destroy this document then, so that the person who signed it took ownership, but when it goes out to everybody, tell them what the solution is, that person's not attached to it anymore because the problem's been addressed. If the person doesn't like the solution, they can, of course, fill out another one and say, I'm appealing that it wasn't handled to my liking or whatever, but it seemed to be working. So I thought, well, maybe with Meet and Confer, if we had these, staff write them up, and then quarterly or whatever time frame it is that we think is appropriate. I think, mine right now is with staff days for the 18-19 school year. So if they want to work with us on it, that's great, but,
Would these be handed into you?
Yeah, I go to administration, yep.
Yeah.
I go to administration.
Yeah, because if you send them to the SEA, well then,
Right.
everybody knows.
And something like a paper cutter wouldn't have to go to anywhere other than you just take care of that, if it's a simple thing like that.
That's what they did, but yeah, something like that, I would
I mean, we
move
would,
on pretty quick, I don't know.
you don't have to have a meeting for that, but if.
But that's how they did it, yeah, right. And then they published out the next day how all the problems that were discussed at that meeting were solved. So everyone was in the loop, so.
So do we need to establish Meet and Confer guidelines?
Well, this has been a topic around here
No,
for
they
a
were
while.
draft.
Oh, we never approved it, was all.
We never approved.
We had-
My question, I thought we had them, I'm sorry, I remember and I said I thought we had it approved, but we never approved them.
Yeah, it was a draft. I tried to find it tonight and I couldn't find it.
So was there ever a Meet and Confer has it ever been held here?
Yeah, we had meetings.
Well, it really wasn't Meet and Confer. It really wasn't Meet and
Oh.
Confer. They were informal meetings with a couple, 2-3 school board members and staff. And I don't remember if there was an administrator there. And it was during our, it was during some controversy.
Sure.
So it really wasn't very structured. It wasn't Meet and Confer. It was just a couple board members, the staff, and they talked about whatever their issues were.
Issues at the time, right?
And there was no real strong vehicle to bring that information forward or have action taken on it. It was, I wouldn't necessarily even have called those Meet and Confer because it was,
No, they were just,
there was, like I said, there was no vehicle to bring that information after you met with the staff to take any kind of action. It was more like a listening session.
right? Yes, that's a good name for
Right,
it, I think.
but Meet and Confer's been kicked around for a couple of years now, and it's from the board and from the staff, so it sits there, so we gotta do something with it, or say we're not doing it, but whatever we're doing, that's why when I saw this form, I thought, well, could be a handy tool, and you're actually addressing an actual issue, taking ownership of it, and,
First of all, I like it, based on, but I have a follow-up, so I'm not care which way we go. But one thing I would say as far as relationship building and allowing staff members to feel they have feedback, and this is a challenge, but I'm asking the admin team, I believe that is part of your job, just like it was your staff job and your staff job and wherever you work. You have to build a culture where your staff feels like they are heard and they get an input. So one thing, I think Meet and Confer is a great idea. If they want to dialogue with us, because I think we would very much support that. And more insight is always better for our decision making. But I also would challenge the admin team that you got staff members that feel like they're not being involved. I challenge you to improve that. So let them review the handbooks and stuff like that. So I don't know what challenges that cause, but I just, I'm very familiar with organizations that is our challenge to make sure people, because then it goes back to overlap. Because I also believe there are avenues that a staff member can bring something to the school board that they're unhappy with. We have policies for that. There's a method to bring stuff in, I thought. So, Meet and Confer sounds good to me because I will meet with anybody if there's issues to talk about. It doesn't change authority, right? Authority is still going to, admin team will handle your decision authority levels. School board member will still, authority level doesn't change. So what I'm saying is I support it, but I also challenge the admin team that if your staff feels like it, they shouldn't have to come up here and say, no one listens to me. Okay. Do your part, and then we can add some Meet and Confers, and then they'll feel more direct feedback, and a relationship is growing between us. So I support it, but I think some of this should be going on in our organization with or without meet and confer.
Well, I've met with the SEA 3 times this school year already, but it's when they've asked to meet, I've never reached out to them and said, hey, I need to meet with you guys.
And I will honestly say, with this admin team, and I'll say this to everybody, with Kyle and you guys, I believe the doors are open and they can happen. So then I might question the staff that if you really are feeling that way, have they come to you guys and said, hey, I have a comment on the help handbook. I'm pretty 97% sure you guys listen to them, you know? So that's why I'm trying to dig through exactly if we have an issue or they're just trying to put a process.
Until there's an issue in the handbook they don't like.
What is our total staff? I mean, if they have 12 people on.
We have 55 teachers,
So 1/5 of the population.
22%. It's 12, but yeah.
And that would be my concern, if we're gonna do meet and confer, let's do meet and confer to 55.
Yep.
Right, and I don't think you're just talking to 12.
Yeah, I think, well, and I heard that tonight, that if one of the other
Speaking for the all,
individuals
whatever
weren't
happens.
participating, they could funnel it, but let's not use SEA as the funnel to getting, if we do meet and confer, we're doing meet and confer
all.
to 55.
That's what my point is that when you're not, that small portion of the whole community that people.
But how do you cut it from 55 to a reasonable group to meet as a committee,
I don't
right?
know that
Do
answer,
you,
but-
do you say, okay, we're going to meet and confer tonight and come sit in the chairs if you want to? I don't know.
I do
That's
think
the balance.
part of the action for the group would be, because let's say they have an issue with compensation. Go to the compensation committee. If you've got an issue with communication or something, go to the communication committee. So that's, I still stand by, let's weave together the good structure you have already in place. Find out if there's a few gaps, and I would recommend we approve this meet and confer. I think what will come out of it is, like we did before, we offered to meet every board meeting early. Remember, we all came early.
Half an hour.
And after about 2 weeks or 2 meetings, nobody showed. And I'm okay with that. So I'm kind of curious here, let's.
But that wasn't just teachers, that was
Everybody.
members of the community.
That's true, yes, we opened that to everybody.
But it was open.
But we could, if everyone agrees, we, approve the meet and confer, but that's, I'm not sure we have to commit to every 2 weeks or every meeting, and we'll
They
see
were
what
talking
happens.
about quarterly.
Yeah.
We were talking quarterly, I'm just telling you an example that Dr. Muhammad gave us, and that's what I saw the form, oh, that's.
I like that.
I like the form, I
Yeah.
like the idea of the form. I did find the draft meet and confer guidelines, if you want me to draft, if you want me to send that to everybody.
Yeah, it's good,
Are we,
we're working on it.
action
I don't know if you want to get that out.
Yeah, it says,
Discussion / action.
action,
right?
so we want to have meet and confer, my question is, okay, we're gonna say, if we say, okay, we're gonna have meet and confer, then we have to have some guidelines.
So is it just for teachers or it's other
Yeah, you have
staff
to
as
define
well?
what it is, right.
We have to-
If
we
you're
have to
gonna meet and
define-
confer, you gotta define what it
Shouldn't
is.
just limit it to teachers then either. I mean,
Oh,
there's
yeah.
maybe meet and
Like the
confer with
bus
the bus
driver.
drivers or
Mhm.
or
Yeah.
maintenance staff or
Absolutely.
whatever.
They work for you.
So, who, how, when?
Who, what,
How
when,
often?
where, why, and how.
Right, the basics.
Well, and as long as we're drafting those guidelines for meet and confer, I'm going to echo what you said, Dave, which I thought was very good, that we need to give definition to the committees then, so that our staff know that if they want to talk about this, it goes to they could bring that to, am I hearing you correctly? That then they could bring that to the committee, the communication committee, rather than hold out for the.
Is there an urgency with this, or can we send these guidelines to people, let them look at it, maybe come back next time to establish more of a form then?
When you say sending them to come people, who are they?
The board members,
Oh,
the
the board members,
guidelines.
okay.
I think it's a good starting point. with
Yeah.
the guidelines.
But I do think we want to move forward with this in a timely manner, because I think they want to
Here's-
meet and confer. So we got to work on it so that we can, if it's taking us till the next board meeting to formulate and decide this plan, then that way they can be meeting shortly after the March meeting. 'cause it's
I
already
meant,
February.
is this more timely than the board looking and approving this next meeting?
Well, discussion, I mean, what do you guys think about, what kind of headache would it cause? Because I don't think it would cause any. We could approve the form, that is a good form, and approve that we'll have meet and confers, and then we have a standing action to clarify some guidelines, only like, because we approve policies, and then sometimes there's what policy implementation guides or something. So I'm just wondering, this way we get on the books, tell our staff that you have meet and confers, and we
Would
respect
you
that
like to make
process.
that motion?
I move that we approve the meet and confer form to be used to support meet and confers formally in our school district, with follow-on clarification by the school board with guidance documents.
Second.
Further questions or discussion on that? And actually, that could be our initial meeting of, with the staff as the meet and confer, that we work together on those guidelines. That could be our first meeting. And then the next meeting is the form issues that may come forward. So that way they have some input on the guidelines as well.
And Karen, you said staff, so do you mean teachers or all staff?
I would say any staff that wants to participate in the guideline process, because it's not going to be limited to just the SEA. So
That's
So
that
cooks, bus drivers, aides, secretaries.
Everybody should be included.
Carl.
Business industry.
Yeah, maybe.
Is it-
No,
is
not
it-
Carl. Not Carl.
Do you have everyone in the room, or do you say
No.
cooks pick a representative, bus drivers pick a representative?
I don't, here's what I would, I don't think we gotta get too crazy with the guidelines. We spend all months and months on.
I don't think I have
And I
to go.
echo this on the technical board, Kyle and I fought against guides there. I'm like, let's.
If it gets out of hand,
Right,
then you
yeah, but
gotta.
I don't think it's, with this group so far, I don't see that. So let's approve this process in the form, say fill this form out, and then we can provide some clarification, because I do believe you have the culture that if they have an issue, they bring it to their leadership, and if they feel fired up to bring it right to the board, we'll have a discussion, or meet and confer.
Are there any other questions? Otherwise, all in favor of Dave Keklinski's motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. We have the resignation of Jay Brower as baseball coach,
Excuse me, softball.
softball. Softball.
Technically, no.
It's not a basketball.
That is true.
I move we don't accept his resignation.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I did that for you.
Would someone like to approve,
If
make
I
a
could just
motion
speak
to
up,
approve
though,
first?
And thank Jay for stepping into a program we did and really putting a solid foundation, continuing our tradition in softball, and really appreciating everything that he did. So absolutely.
I would move to approve Jay Brower's resignation as the softball coach.
I'll second that.
He had a great letter of resignation.
Yeah, very nice.
Very nice. Any other questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Okay, we have policies. First reading, so is there a motion to approve first reading of policy 0152, officers?
I'll move to approve policy 0152, officers.
Second.
Are there questions or discussion on that one? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Policy 1110, assessment of district goals.
I will move to approve policy 1110, assessment of district goals.
Second.
Questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Policy 2451, alternative education programs.
I'll make a motion to approve policy 2451, alternative education programs.
Second.
Questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Policy 1460, physical examination.
I'll move to approve policy 1460, physical examination.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The next two policies, 1619.01 and 3124, on employment contract.
Actually,
Oh, that's not right.
Lisa, the 1619 can be scratched. That one is not in there at all.
Okay, so we're only looking at 3124 3124.
I make a motion to approve policy number 3124, employment contract.
Second.
Questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. 3430 and 4430, almost the same except different employment groups, leaves of absence.
I'll move to approve policy 3430 and 4430, leaves of absence.
Questions or discussion?
Second?
Oh, questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Policy 8531, free and reduced meal prices. Free and reduced price meals.
I make a motion to approve policy 8531, free and reduced price meals.
Second.
Questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. 0164.1, regular meetings.
I make a motion to approve policy 0164.1, regular meetings.
Second.
Questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Policy 5310.01, emergency nursing services.
Move to approve policy 5310.01, emergency nursing services.
Second?
Questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. 0142.7, orientation.
I'll move to approve policy 0142.7, orientation.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Policy 2260.02, English language proficiency.
Move to approve policy 2260.02, English language proficiency.
Second.
Questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Policy 5460.01, diploma deferral.
I make a motion to approve policy 5460.01, diploma deferral.
Second?
Questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. I will say just for the record, for the camera, that the school board had these policies in advance and was able to read through them and pose any questions ahead of time. And almost always they are policy based on some law precedents that we really don't have a choice in. Then we have some policies to delete, and this would be the first reading of those policies to delete. Would someone would like to make a motion
We can do that as a whole.
on those as deletion?
I'll make a motion to approve the deletion of policy 3420, health insurance benefit, policy 4420, health insurance benefit, policy 6350, prevailing wage coordinator.
Second.
Questions or discussion on the deletions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. With that, that concludes our business tonight, and I will take a motion to be into executive session.
So moved.
Second?
Cindy, Karen?
Aye.
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 Motion carried at 8:43 p.m.
We are on.
Okay, we are back in open session at 9:56 p.m. I will look for a motion to approve Carl Volkman as the junior varsity baseball coach.
So moved.
I'm
Second?
just going to remind everybody to make the full
Full motion?
Any questions or comments about Carl? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Approving Brooke Lauritsen as the varsity head softball coach.
I make a motion to approve Brooke Lauritsen as our varsity softball coach.
I'll second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Motion to approve Allison Newman, assistant softball.
I move to approve Allison Newman as the assistant softball coach.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Nicholas Balderato.
I move to approve Nicolo Balderato as the head golf coach.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Clayton Kintz, FMLA leave.
I move we approve.
Oh, Karen, are you getting all these?
Oh, I got it. Yeah, I'm fine.
I move we approve Clayton,
Kint.
Kent, FML leave request.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Kim Haynes, FMLA.
I'll make a motion to approve the FMLA request by Kim Hain.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Samantha Bortle is the full-time special education aide.
I move to approve Samantha Bordel as the special education full-time aide.
Second.
Questions or discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We'll then be looking to move our regular school board meeting to March 14th due to conflicts on the 21st with board members. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Motion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried at 9:59 PM.